Welcome back to another soccer betting news video to all the viewers, and welcome to my great football mind, Banele Pikwa. I mean, it's been some drama in South African football. Our national coach has put our football under the spotlight and scrutinized it quite heavily. How do you feel just off the bat of his comments that he's made?
Look, I mean, first of all, greetings to the listeners at home. Greetings to you. I like how you introduced me saying the great mind. I hope what I'm going to say here will be received. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about Hugo Broos. There's been a lot of talks about what he said. You know, basically he said the PSL is not good enough to compete with the top leagues, you know, like the players that are coming from the Premier Leagues, the La Ligas and all of that, you know. And I feel like he was in a way telling the truth. I know some people it came as excuses and all of that, but he was basically saying we don't have an under 23 that is playing regularly. We don't have an under 20 that is playing regularly. Even the PSL also is not good enough. So development basically it's in its lowest rank in the country, because if you want to compete, let's say for example we go to AFCON next year and we get drawn against Senegal, who are we going to be versing? We're going to be versing your Edward Mendy's, your Mane's.
Yes.
They play
European players.
Yeah, not only do they play for top European teams, but week in, week out they play in the Premier League, week in, week out they play in the Champions League, you know. So the level of competition they're competing in, it's too high. And when you look at our players in the Bafana team, for example, take Ronan Williams, the captain.
Yes.
He plays for SuperSport. He only plays in the PSL. He doesn't play CAF Champions League. He doesn't play in any other games, you know. So it's obviously going to be difficult for Bafana to compete when they're coming with those players. Look at our main striker at the moment, to Evidence Makgopa, you know, playing for Ibaroka, and imagine him against Koulibaly when we're playing in Senegal, you know. So the quality is a little bit low. So basically what Hugo Broos is saying, we must get back to what we used to do before, where we used to send players overseas, because before we had your Andre Aronson playing for Fulham, Mark Fish playing for, you know, like your Boltons.
Yes.
We had Boshon Bartlett, your Bennies, your Nomvetes. All those guys used to play for top European teams or top European leagues. And at that time, Bafana was hard to beat. We were qualifying for World Cups, AFCONs. We were amongst the favorites. We were always in the conversation. So I think what Hugo Broos said is harsh, but it is the truth.
Look, I mean, we are a proud football nation. In '96, we reached the pinnacle, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We were ranked 16th in terms of numbers. But now we see the likes of teams like Australia, who just qualified for the World Cup. And you don't see them as a proud football nation, but they seem to be doing or getting across the line in that regard. But what Hugo is saying, many of us agree, it is the truth, but the big talking point is, do you feel that maybe he was disrespectful in the way that he came across with it? Because we see some coaches and many football journalists taking offense to what Hugo Broos is saying.
Yeah, look, I mean, what's going to happen is that most of us love our PSL. They love our teams, you know, and some of the coaches put in hours and effort in the PSL in trying to improve. So when somebody's going to come and tell you this is not good enough, you will feel disrespected, you know. But sometimes maybe that's the way to go for us to change things, because we've been saying things in a nice, respectful way and nothing gets done, you know. The fact that everybody's talking about what Hugo Broos said, it means it was felt, it was received, everybody heard him, you know. So maybe sometimes you have to say it in a harsher way, because everybody's saying, yeah, Paru Baxter said the same thing, Paru Penny once said the same thing. We don't even remember what they said because they said it in a nicer way, you know. So maybe sometimes in order for us to change, we have to be harsh. And he made good reference too, like you look at a team like Belgium, 2006, he said they were nowhere to be found. They invested in development and they changed it. You look at even our own African teams, or Senegal, Ngabo 98, they were nowhere to be, nobody knew about Senegal, but what they've been doing, they've been sending a lot of young players at the age of 15, you know, sending them to Europe. And they see Uguti, okay, let's say, for example, you're a defender, you know, they'll send you to a top country that develops defenders. You know, if you're a good striker, they send you to like that. That's why now they've got a pool of players. Yes. That's what the KZN Academy have been doing also with Abo Stole, Abo Tabo Tsele, sending them to Europe at the age of 15, you know. Well, Farouk Khan once tried it also, Stars of Africa, when he sent Abo Tukelo Ranti, sent Abo Meima Hlangu, you know. Those are the players, Abo Anile Ngcobo, those are the players that didn't play PSL football. They just went on and Sbazik Bafana, you know. And you could see like the level of competitiveness, you know, very good.
Look, I like the way that you mentioned that the PSL coaches and the like have looked or done well to improve our players at the professional level. And then you went on to say that the development of players that are going overseas is important. I think maybe that difference is key here. Is Hugo, let's look at it this way. Is Hugo Broos brought in to develop our players, or is he brought in to improve our players when they do get chosen for the national squad?
I think it's a bit of both, but obviously you can't improve a player that is not developed at all, and that is what is happening in most PSL. We've got professionals. Remember, there's a difference between a professional player and a developed professional player. There's a big difference. As long as we've got 32 teams professionally in South Africa, which is 16 NFD and 16 PSL, we're always going to have professionals, because those teams need players, whether they developed or not, you know. So now we have to look back and say, let's go and develop our players, let them understand what is it to be a professional player. Not so long ago, I mean, a player like Ukatoso said at Chiefs, most players would come and you'd see they're under the influence of alcohol, you know. So such things needs to be addressed, and they come with development. They come with understanding the magnitude of playing for a team like Chiefs, understanding the things. And when Upitso got to Al Ahly, he said, oh wow, the professionalism is seeing from the players, it's something different. And he even said, if he came with a breathalyzer to South African players, there would be no training, because most of the players always come to training drunk. And Pizza was criticized and slaughtered again, just like it is with Hugo Broos, you know. So every time a person tells us that this is what is happening in the PSL compared to what's happening in other places, we run our heads and want to finish that person, you know. But the reality is change is needed in South African football, and a lot needs to be put in. These players are getting a lot of money for what they are doing.
Yes, I think Hugo Broos has hinted as how he would like to go about that. We hear him say that he wants to meet with the PSL coaches, but it seems to not be coming to fruition. I think in one of the recent statements that he made, he also goes on to say that he made an appeal to SAFA to get all the coaches from the PSL on board, but it seemed to be denied. How do now, after some coaches have felt disrespected in the PSL, would they want to go and sit down with Hugo Broos after they felt disrespected? How is he going to now mend that relationship and get them to come together and understand the scrutiny that he's bringing forward?
So I think we need to put pride aside, and people need to be show maturity. They need to be matured. You know, if you are coaching in the PSL and your interest is to develop South African football and see PSL being competitive again and see Bafana being a powerhouse again, then you'd have to put whatever differences aside and go to that meeting and listen. And everybody, what Hugo Broos is trying to do here is not picking a fight with the coaches, but he's trying everybody to come together. Let's all be in one voice and fight these minor challenges that are holding us back.
Yeah, those are the thoughts of myself, Joshua Gaillard and Banele Pikwa. Do you think Hugo Broos is going about his business the correct way? And the upcoming AFCON, we have to qualify. He has to qualify. The pressure is definitely on for him now. But let us know in the comments, like the video, share it, and until next week.
For more soccer betting tips and previews, get the latest copy of Soccer Betting News for only 10 Rand at your nearest Hollywood Bets branch or news agent.